This is TOGAtech, and in this video we'll be making brows. No, disassemble number 5. Welcome to another video from TOGAtech. My name's Dave. I want to start off by apologising for not producing any contents for the last 8 months or so, but that's been down to ill health. I'm on the mend now, and I've got a lot planned for 2024, starting off with this video, which is to manufacture a set of what are called grid brows. Now these, if you don't know what grid brows are, these are a set of programmable RGB LEDs. Now these will sit on your peripheral vision on your simulator and can be programmed for multiple functions. Primarily they're used with driving simulators such as iRacing or Euro Truck Simulator, and you can program these lights for individual colours and positions along this grid here to show various events or status of your vehicle. You can set them for yellow flags, blue flags, vehicles passing on your right or your left. You can set them for pit stops. You can have them for engine rev counters. Anything you like that's available in your simulator, you can program these to display either a different colour or a different position, static or blinking. Now you can achieve this with some easy pieces of equipment. I've got here 3D printed brows, which I'll show you those. They contain each one of them contains a strip of 9 RGB LEDs, and they're all powered by an Arduino Pro Micro. Let's get on with the build. Okay, for this build, so you're going to need a few tools. Got a set of wire cutters, set of wire strippers, a sharp blade, set of tweezers, screwdriver, some solder, some flux, a soldering iron, and pair of helping hands. These will help to hold the wires while you solder them. Gives you an extra pair of hands to use there. That's all the tools you're going to need. And let's go through the equipment you're going to need. Okay, this is the equipment you're going to need. First thing you're going to need are a strip of programmable RGB LEDs. Now this strip is called WS2182B LED strip. Now I'll leave a link to where you can purchase this one from, but you can use others. I've gone for 144 LEDs per meter. The reason for that is the LEDs are very close together, so they'll fit nicely in these small brows casing. Now these strips are very different from manufacturer to manufacturer, so I'll put up a little image that I've done to explain how these strips are, but they have several markings on them. This one, you can see that each LED can be individually cut anywhere along these cut lines. Now some manufacturers only do them that can be cut every 3 LEDs, so pay close attention to your strip that you purchase. This one can be cut anywhere along these cut lines, so I can cut each individual LEDs if I want, but I will be cutting 2 strips of 9 LEDs. 2 strips of 9 LEDs, okay? Now along here you've got 3 rails. The top rail, I believe, is your common rail, so that'll be your common or ground. The middle rail is for your data in, so that'd be your signal in, and the bottom rail here, as you can see on the bottom rail here, this will be for your plus 5 volts or VCC. Now, as I say, these strips come up very different, so please refer to your manufacturer's instructions to make sure you're using the right strip and cutting in the right place. So we're going to cut 2 strips of 9 LEDs here. That's the first thing you'll need. The next thing you'll need is a Arduino or an Arduino clone Pro Micro. The reason why we're using a Pro Micro is it already comes with the boot structure on it, the boot program on it, which means that when you plug it in, it's a USB, it will be recognised by your PC straight away. It's got a boot loader, I believe they call it, on there. And this is what we'll be using to program our LEDs to work with our simulator. We're only going to be using 3 pins on this Pro Micro. We're going to be using the ground pin, the VCC pin, and pin number 4. Now we're designating it pin number 4, but you can use whatever pin you like. But in the software, as you'll see later on in the video, when we program the software, we'll be telling it that the data will be coming in on pin 4 on the Pro Micro. So that's the second item you're going to use. And the next thing is a set of 3D printed brows. Now these I've printed on my Anycubic i3 Mega. I'll leave a link to the STL files that you can download. But these are just shaped boxes. They're about 95mm long by about 25mm wide. And I've also done a little back cover. Go on the back there as to make the whole thing an enclosure, and it's got some holes on the back there to let the cables go in and out, because 2 of these will be chained and the 3rd cable will go off to your microcontroller. So that's your 2 3D printed boxes, link in the description. And the only other thing you're going to need is some cable. Now, in my first version, I used a 6-core cable, which was way too thick. So what I've done here, you need 3 cores, basically, a 5 volt or VCC, a ground, and a signal cable. So you need 3 cables. So what I've used is an old USB cable. I've stripped it down to use an old USB cable. You need about a metre between the 2 boxes, and then a little piece going, or a USB going from your microcontroller to your PC. Okay, and that's it. Let's get on with the build. So the first part of the build is to make sure you cut your strip. We're using 9 LEDs, so we need to cut 9 LEDs. And as I've said before, I emphasised before, make sure you check with your manufacturer. Standing off here. Make sure you check with your type of LEDs where you can cut them. On this strip, I can cut each individual LED. I can cut anywhere on here, but some you have to cut every 3 LEDs only. Okay, so I'm going to count 9 LEDs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's my 9 LEDs, and there you can see my cut line. I'm going to cut across there. And that's my first strip of 9 LEDs. Just going to recheck that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to cut another strip the same length. Now you have to solder to these tags on the end there, so make sure you've got enough copper to solder to, or you won't get a good connection. So that will be my 9 LEDs there. There. So we've got another set of 9 LEDs, so that's my 2 strips. Now when we come to, we're actually going to join these 2 strips, but in between them we're going to have a piece of USB cable. Okay, we've got to join these strips back together but using the cable. Now with LEDs, light emitting diodes, because they're diodes, they only accept current in one direction. Now on here, I don't know if you can see clear enough, but I'll put an image up. There's an arrow. The arrow shows the flow of current. This is going in that direction. So we have to have power in from this side, goes through the LEDs, out the LEDs, and then check your second strip. Must make sure that those arrows are travelling in the same direction when we join them. And so they'll go power from here, through that strip, through your wires, through this strip, and then they'll light up. If you have them the other way round, this set will not work. So make sure that you've got the flow, which is indicated by arrows on this strip, all running in the same direction. Power from this side, through there, through the wire in the middle, and through there. So what we're going to do now is strip a piece of cable, about 1 metre long. I'm using 900 millimetres to 1 metre. I'm using an old USB cable. I've stripped it back here, and then we're going to solder these cables in between this one. The long cable goes in between the 2. Bottom rail is our power, top rail is our common, middle is our signal. So I'm using red for the power, white for the common, green for the signal. Okay, now I apologise if you can't see this on camera because the angles might be difficult. I'm going to get set up to solder these. Right, I've got my USB cable now and I've stripped it back. Leave enough cable here, this part, the flexible part, to bend back within the casing. Otherwise you'll find it will foul inside the casing and you won't be able to bend it. So I've put a bit of flux on there. I'm just going to tin them up with some solder. You've got 5 cables inside the USB, but you only need 3 of them. So I'm going for the white, the green and the red. Just put a little bit of solder on these. And this will help it adhere to the board quickly because you don't want to leave a lot of heat on the LED strip itself. Bit of solder on there. There's a bit of dirt on there, doesn't seem to want to solder to that one. Okay, that's that end. Do the same on the other end. the smoke there. That's my cables tinned up. Now, as I say, what we've got to do is we've got to connect these to the LEDs. Just going to put that out the way and bring in my LED strip here. Now remember, they've got to flow in the same direction. So I'm going to start with this strip here. The arrows are pointing in that direction. My top rail is the common, the middle rail is the signal, and the bottom rail is the VCC or 5 volt power. I'm using my white cable as my common. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flux on the end of these. Tin my ends up just to help the soldering. Same on that side. Okay, so that's my strip there. So let's start with our common. Soldering iron, bit of solder. As I say, you don't want to hold this on here for too long because you don't want to damage the circuit board. It takes seconds and that's on there. Let me just put a little bit of weight on that cable to hold it in place. Then I can fiddle with these. So that's the common on. I apologise if my head gets in the way. I've done circuit diagrams for you to have a look at, just in case you can't see this when we're soldering. So the second wire goes in the middle rail, which is our signal. Stray cable there. Right, there's our signal. Just let it cool before you check. And then the third one is our VCC or 5 volts. Goes on that last rail. And let it cool. No, that didn't stick. Oh, damn it. Right, let's try that again. I think that's got it. No, damn it. Not a lot of metal there to catch on to. Let's put a bit of flux on the end of that. Tiny little tabs, you see. Let's try that again. Don't want to hold it on there for too long, but just got to hold it on for long enough for it to catch. Yep, that's got it. So all 3 wires are on there. You've got to be very gentle with these when you put them in the case. Okay. So now that's our LEDs. Don't forget with the directional arrow in that direction. So when we come to the other side, the cable, the other side, we want to make sure our LEDs are running in the same direction. Get these set up here, so I'll pop that over there. So you've got to be very gentle with them until they're sealed in their case. Again, this is the other side of the cable. Already tinned it up. Right, before I do that, I best slide on the cases, otherwise we won't be able to get them through. So we start with the back for that one over there. So I'm going to slide this back on. They're identical, the backs, so even though you need 2 holes on one and only 1 on the other, I've 3D printed 2 holes on both. We can seal the hole with a bit of hot glue, so we'll slide that back on there first. Then we've got to slide the other back on. There's that other 3D printed back. Slide that on. Do forget to do this, you can always cut a notch in the bottom to get it through. Right, so that's on there. So that's our 2 3D printed backs on. Now we've got to get our strip again, make sure it's going in the same direction. Now I've put that through the wrong hole on this one. Doesn't really matter, but try and make it as neat as possible. Put that on that hole, because we'll have another wire going through the other hole that connects to the Arduino Pro Micro. So that's that on there. Yep, so make sure these arrows are following in that direction still. So let's get that soldered up. These wires I've tinned up already. Bit of there we go. There's those 2. And then on this end, we're going to have 1 more wire that goes to our Arduino, like that. Now I've 3D printed a little case for this Arduino. Again, links to the STL file in the description. So all we need is a short USB cable. It's a short USB cable. So I've got one here. Let's just cut that and make a short little connection cable. Doesn't have to be long. It's only going to the board. Here's our wires inside. I'll get rid of all this rubbish on the side here we don't need. He said he will. Can't seem to. Very blunt wire cutters. Oh, do better with a pair of scissors. So it's 3 cables that end. Right, so I've cut my second piece USB cable, stripped and tinned the wires back. It's just a short bit, because this is going from the first LED strip back to the Arduino Pro Micro. Before you attach this to the LED strip, you're going to need to pass one end through the back casing of the brow back casing. So let's pass that through there before we solder it. Or we can solder it first and then pass it back out after. But it is a little bit fiddly, so let's try and get this in a position where we can do this. This is where when you bend the cables inside the casings, you've got to be very careful. So again, make sure the arrows are travelling in the right direction. We're going to do our ground cable, which is our white cable, to the top rail. Solder on there. Just going to the top rail. And our signal cable, which is the green, is going to the middle. I'll just trim that down a bit because I've got quite a long length of cable on there. Just trim that off. There we go. Put a little bit of weight on there to stop that moving. So, need a little bit of solder. Again, let's go into our middle rail. Now, if you're finding that a bit too hard to do with your fingers, always use a pair of tweezers. Just hold that so you can manipulate that into place. A little bit of solder. Right, I do apologise if you can't see, but it's a certain position we've got to get these in. Just let that cool before you move it. That's on there, and then the last one is a VCC signal cable. Again, I'm going to shorten that a little bit. Just bend that into position to start with. Bit of solder, and that will go on there. Just let that cool. Make sure that's connected. There we go. That's it. Now, as I say, the difficult part of this is getting them in the cases. These are your brow cases. You've got to get these LEDs in these cases, bent over without damaging the wiring, and then what we'll do is we'll hot glue them into position. Okay, so I'm going to get my hot glue gun set up, ready to hot glue these into position, and tidy up a little bit of the bench here. So let's get the hot glue set up and I'll be back. Okay, this is probably one of the trickiest bits to do because you've got to be careful not to damage the cable, and you also want to align the LEDs up with the holes in the brows themselves. Like there they are there. You want to make sure you line that up correctly. Now, I'm actually going to use that one there because that one, as you can see, I put a carbon fibre type finish on. I haven't done that on that one yet, so I'm going to glue it into this one first. So be careful when bending the wires and try and line your LED up with your first hole. We just pop that in there. It's lined up with my first hole there. And I've got my hot glue gun here. It's heating up. I'm going to put a little bit of glue just to hold that in the middle. It's got the position right. Glue gun's not hot enough yet. This is probably one of the most difficult parts to do. I do apologise if my head gets in the way. But I do need to see where I'm putting this glue. Why this glue gun is not functioning. Try and make sure you've got it straight before that glue sets and that your LEDs are lined up. So hold that down. Let that glue settle. Yep, I think that's going to be it. So if I hold down that end, some more glue in there. Now, for the moment, because we haven't tested them, I'm not going to glue them together, just going to put a bit of tape around them to hold them in place, just in case we need to go back and check our electrics after. So I'm just going to put a little bit of electrical tape around them just until we test them, and we can take this off and glue them all together. There we go, like that. Okay. Just until we do our testing. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on the back there just to secure these wires so they don't get pulled out at all. Like that. Now I'm going to repeat the can't even say it. I'm going to repeat the very difficult process on our other one. This is our other brow, the other side, which again has to locate in here, making sure the direction of the arrows is the same. We'll try and see if we can do this. So we just need to get it in position, make sure our first LED is lined up. It's very hard to see the position of that LED. Let's just check it from this side. So it just needs to be there. That's the first LED there. Take the weight off that cable. Sugar. Do that. Let me try and take the weight off this cable. Otherwise it's going to snap my soldering. In fact, I think my soldering's broken already. Yep. Yeah, it's broken. Okay, if we recap from where we left off, got all the wiring done inside the brows themselves. I've just taped it up for now until we do a wiring test, just to make sure everything's working in case I have to open it up again. Once that's done, I can seal it permanently. So there's our two brows. They're linked together by a metre long piece of cable, and then this one that comes out here is going to be connected to our microcontroller, which is our Arduino Pro Micro. So what I'm going to do now is bring that on and solder these wires to the Pro Micro. Now, I built a little case, or 3D printed a case. This file is available on Thingiverse. It's not my own design. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. But it's a nice little case that will hold the Pro Micro. Once it's wired up, put it in there just to make it all neat. So now this is a little bit fiddly to wire this to the Pro Micro, but I've got a little apparatus here, which is another helping hands. The one that I 3D printed, which is this one, which is lovely design, but it's just not strong enough to hold it. So I'll have to work on that one. So I've just got a little makeshift one here. And there's our Pro Micro there, if you can see that. That's the Pro Micro. Now we need 3 pins on this Pro Micro. We need the VCC, which is our 5 volts positive in. We need a ground, which is our ground or common. That's the power going to the Pro Micro and to the LEDs. And then we need 1 data pin. I'm using data pin 4. But you can choose whatever data pin you like. It's just in the software that I'll be showing you later on, it will be setting that to data pin 4. So we're using data pin 4 on this Pro Micro. Now, let's get a bit of light on that Pro Micro there. And a little bit more light on our table. Push that in a bit there. Right. Now these microcontrollers are fantastic. I mean, you've got something like 18 pins on here, so you can control 18 devices or more even by setting up a matrix. We're only using one pin to do all this, so the rest of them are redundant, but you can do so much with these, and at like $8.99 a piece, fantastic piece of kit. Can't recommend them enough. Right, let's fire up our soldering iron, and we've got to solder these wires here, which come out the back of one of the brows, to the pins on our Pro Micro, which I say it's a bit fiddly, but we'll get them on there. I'm going to have to put on some magnifying glasses to see these, because they're very, very tiny. I can try and point out the pins. So this is our Pro Micro here with the USB input on this end here, and we've got this pin here, which is our pin 4, and then we've got a ground pin here. You've got a couple of grounds, there's one there and one there, but any one you can use. There's our ground pin, and then our VCC or 5 volts in is over on this side here. So I'm going to go sterile cockpit, as they say, and try and solder these in. Remember, the white wire is our ground, red is our VCC, and the green is our signal input, our digital input, which goes to pin 4. So now we've got our soldering iron up to temperature. And I've put a little bit of flux on those contacts just to make the solder flow a bit better. And the contacts are very close together as well, so you don't want to put a lot of solder on there, otherwise it will bridge across to the other ports, which you don't want. And you don't want to hold the heat too long on the board either, because it could desolder some of the components that are on there on the microcontroller. Right, let's see if we can get this on. So the first one we're going to do is our pin 4, which is there. So let's try with the pin 4 on there. That's caught our pin 4. Now, I've actually used these before, so there's solder in the pinholes, but so it's better if you can poke the wires through the holes that haven't had solder on, then it will go a lot easier. But I couldn't clear the holes out after I've used this microcontroller once before. Right, now let's do our ground, which is our white wire, so we can line that up. Might need to use a pair of tweezers on here, my big fat fingers. So that's, I'm going to cut that a little bit shorter, because we don't need tons of wire hanging off of there. Right, let's see if I can get that on that ground contact. Again, a little bit of solder. Hover over the ground. Let it cool. That's it. So that's the signal on pin 4, white on ground. Our last one is our red one that goes to this VCC over here. I can just bring them gently round to touch that VCC. Might have to move my controller board around a bit. Bring that VCC over this side. Just be careful with the wires not to break them. Again, the length of that wire is too long, so I'm going to trim that a little bit. It's far easier if you're using a virgin board and you can poke them through the holes. I've got a little bit of tape on there just to protect the circuit board from my metal crocodile clips, if you're wondering what that red bit is. Right, let's see if I can bend that into position to get on our VCC. Be nice if that would poke in the hole. It might do. If I apply a bit of heat to that, that might go in. So again, a little bit of solder. Hold that with my tweezers. Just let that cool. And that's in. And there you have it. So we've got our green on our signal input, which is pin 4. Our ground, which is on our ground input. And our VCC input, which is the red wire on there. And that's the only connections you need on that board. I'll take that tape off a second. Right, that was just to protect the circuit board from my crocodile clips. Now we can push this back gently like that. You can see that. And then we get our little 3D printed case. Push that in. One end's got a slot for where the USB controller comes out, and the other end's got a notch where the cable comes out. I'm just going to feed that into there. Drop that down there. And then the little lid will snap on. I'm going to put a bit of hot glue on the back there so you can't yank the wires. I can't do it inside in case it touches the circuit of the board, so I don't want to do it inside, so I'll do it on the outside. That lid there should just snap onto this case like that. There you go. And again, I won't seal this up yet, just in case we need to open it up to check our wiring. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape around it just to hold it closed until we test it all out. Do a little bit of hot glue on the back there just to hold that wiring in. And that's it. That's the construction done. Our next stage is to flash or program the microcontroller and then test it out on the software that needs to link your simulator to this microcontroller, which is a piece of software called SimHub. But I'll show you all that in just a moment. Let's go over to the PC and do the software side of things. Okay, in order to get this hardware that we've built to communicate with your simulator, we need a piece of software called SimHub. Now you can download this for free from your website. It's called www.simhub-.com, and it's a free piece of software. I'll leave a link in the description below. And then once you've downloaded that software, you just need to install it. Straightforward install. And then as you can see, we've got it here, SimHub, and I'm going to open that application now. This is SimHub. Free piece of software, fantastic piece of software. You can see here all we've got are lots and lots of simulators, predominantly racing sims. I believe there is one flying sim, but I haven't tried it yet, which is War Thunder here. But I'll have to look into that one. This project I'm doing for a friend is to be used with iRacing, so we're going to use it this one here. So the first thing we need to do is to go on to the section down here. These are all the sections that are available to you. Click on Arduino, because we're using an Arduino Pro Micro. So we click on Arduino. Right. When you click on Arduino, it's going to ask you to create a profile for what you're going to install on here. Now I'm going to call this profile. Let's do a new profile, and we're going to call it DIY grid browse project, and you can select what game you want it to auto start with. So in this case we're going to use iRacing, so let's go to select iRacing, and we're going to store the LED's brightness within the profile itself. What essentially we're doing is we're now going to upload a piece of coding to our Arduino Pro Micro, which will allow the LEDs to communicate with our simulator, and our simulator communicate with the LEDs via the Arduino Pro Micro. So we've created a new profile here. We're going to be using RGB LEDs, so you need to select this tab up here. Then if we go along now to My Hardware, and it's a single Arduino. Now it's scanning for this Arduino to see if there's an Arduino connected to this system. So what I'm going to do now is I've set up, let's just turn this on here so you can see. I've set up my grid browse with my Arduino on another bench there, you've got a camera on there. So I'm going to connect this via USB to my PC. Just plug that in there. Initially when you do this you might not see those red lights. Because I've already uploaded the software and the sketch to this Arduino, that's why you had those red lights come up. That's a test sequence. So now on this page here we've got Open Arduino Setup Tool. We've got the Arduino is connected on COM port 10. It's detected it, so you can see it's connected. And it's called SimHub Grid Browse, and it's connected. So I'm going to open up the setup tool, and if I can just bring this window in for you to see. Here we go, it's opened up a new window. It's detected that it's Arduino. We want to select Arduino Pro Micro. There's a Pro Micro with the ATmega 32U4 chip on it, and the serial port we're connected to is COM port 10. And here are all your pin settings on here, shows you what pins. Remember we're using pin 4 for our data in on my particular one, and then you've got the ground and your VCC, which is your voltage in. There's a VCC, you've got ground there, you've got two grounds over here. So you can use whichever ground you like, doesn't matter, they're all connected. VCC is your positive 5 volts in, and your pin 4 is your data input. Then over here it gives you a selection of pre-written coding that you can upload to this device. So you don't have to know anything about software coding, it's all done for you, which is perfect. Now we're looking for a certain set of LEDs. So if you scroll through until you find the LEDs we're using, which if you remember from earlier in the video was these, the WS2182B RGB LEDs. We're going to be using this, and it's going to ask you how many LEDs you've got. Now we've got 2 strips of 9 LEDs. So you must remember this is 18 LEDs in total. So we're going to select 18. Even though they're 2 separate strips, they're actually joined by a piece of cable. So we're going to select 18 LEDs. It's going to ask you which data pin did you connect it to on your board. And if you remember, we connected it to data pin 4. So we select that to 4. This you don't have to touch. Reverse LED order you don't have to do. None of this. Light up all configured LEDs in red colour at Arduino startup. Yes, we want that. So that will show us that the whole thing's working when we first plug it in. Don't need to touch anything else on there. Then if you come up to this side, got safety first, put your seatbelts on, avoiding blah 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 blah. I understand uploading a sketch will replace any existing firmware on my current Arduino. Yep, we know that. I'm going to tick that, and then it's upload to Arduino. Now this will take that pre-written piece of coding, which someone has nicely written for us here, and upload it to our Arduino here, and it will be good to go. So let's click on upload Arduino, and it's just uploading the sketch, which is the software that runs the whole thing, and it will tell us when it's done and if everything is okay. Okay, everything worked fine. Upload successful. Perfect. Click on OK there. We can close this. So our software's installed. Our Arduino is now connected with the new software on it. All we have to do now is to add to it whatever we want to use on this. So as I say, if we now go to, we've installed all of that, let's go to our RGB LEDs. This is our current profile, our DIY grids browse project. Now over here you can see that there's a button called Add Effects. Now what the effects are is what you want these lights to do. So if we click on Add Effect, down here there's a whole series of effects you can add. You can show your fuel levels, your RPMs, your speeds, your turbos, whether or not your ABS is active or not, black flags. Scroll down. All the events within your simulator can be shown here, and you can customize how the LEDs are shown on your browse. So let's go for something simple at the moment, say a green flag on. Okay, so we go green flag on, add. So it's added an event. Now it's not working yet because we haven't specified how we want this to work. So if we open that event up, at the moment it's set, the starting position LED is position 1, the LED count is 1, so it's only doing one LED at the moment, and it's going to set it to green when this event happens. So when you get a green flag event happen, this is what will happen on here. Now we need to open up our test editor, open test data editor, so that we can activate this without the game actually running, just to see if our LEDs are working. So here's our test editor. If we scroll down here, we've got various things here. So if we activate green flag, and if you watch what happens once we activate our green flag, come on green flag, car model, game running. The game isn't actually running, let's tick that anyway. So we're going to activate green flag, and if you can see on that other camera there, one green LED has lit up on one of our grid browsers. That's because you can see here we've got start position 1, LED count 1. Now you can set this to blinking by ticking the blinking, and you can see it's now blinking. If you want to mimic the same thing happening on the other brow, you have to create another event of the same nature. So if we go to Add Effect and we go green flag again, green flag on, add. So this is our second one. Now where we've got our start position is 1 on here, if we want to do exactly the same on the other side, our position will be 18 because they go across in sequence. So as you can see, that light is moving along. So that was position, let's go back, that's position 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 is the last one on the strip. And if we click blinking, they both blink in sequence on your left and right brow. Perfect. So we know that these are working. So if we turn the green flag indicator off, so we want to add something else now. So let's say we delete these. Try and delete these. Let me delete these. Delete selection. There we go. So I'm going to delete that green flag effect. I'm going to delete this green flag effect. And we're going to do something else, just as simple. Say turning indicators. We go add effect. Let's see if we can find something as simple as turning indicators. Probably haven't got it here. Oh yes, we have turning indicators. Turn left indicator. Here we go. Turn left and a turn right. So let's add turn left. Add that. And then we're going to add another one, which is going to be our turn right. Turn right indicator. Add. Now if we open up the turn left indicator, it's automatically set to yellow, but it doesn't have to be. And we're going to do all 9 on this one. So start position 1, LED count 9, so it does the whole strip. And we'll have that blinking. And then on the turn right indicator, start position is going to be 10, because it's on the other strip. LED count 9 again, because there's 9, and that will be blinking. Now if we come over here to our test data, and we'll find our turn indicators, we turn the left on. See, it's blinking. I'll turn the right on. That's blinking too. Perfect. Just turn them off now. So it's just something as simple as that, and you can add more and more effects, whatever effects you want. So let's say what else do we want to add on to here? So we just go add effect. Say we want to say a spot a car left and spot a car right. So we do spot a car left, add another effect, spot a car right, add. Now if I minimise these, so we've got our spot a car on the left. Let's open that one up. So it's going to show you a red light, start position 1, let's do an LED count of 3, and we'll have that as a solid rather than a blinking. Spot a car on the right. Remember our start position will be 10. Set that to 10 and 3 again, and we'll have that static as well. Now if I activate that in the test sequence here, if I can, because the game's not running, I don't know if I can. federal brake. Oh, here we go. Spot a car left. Get 3 on the there. On, off. Spot a car right. That really needs to be up the other end. So we'll change that along. So our start position, let's move that along. So it's just 3 from the end. That's it there. 16, yeah. 16, 17, 18. Yep, so that will start position will be 16 on that one. And that's it. So spot a car on the right. And it's as simple as that. It's so versatile, the Sim Hub, it's unbelievable. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Everything is working fine. I'm going to take this round to my friend, plug it into his simulator and see how it works in the actual game. And I'll do a short clip of that video at the end of this one. Right, thanks again for watching. This is the first video from me for 2024. Next one coming up should be a Airbus A320 overhead panel. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Someone pass you.
Another 7 car coming up. Might release that, not get out of his way, but it'll come by.
Left side, clear left.
That's what we wanted?
Yeah, that's perfect.